All right. Good morning, everybody. Here we are. We are going through our Maamer, Garments of the Soul, Vayishlach Yeshua. Very. It's an incredible Maamer. I've learned it a few times in my life, and every time it's just amazing. So I'm very happy that it's in print, so we're able to learn it. Also, today is Friday for anyone watching live. So if you have a physical copy, I would definitely suggest everybody reviewing it on Shabbos, because learning it for me is only half the step. There's a physical copy I see. Learning it for me is only half the step. When you take it on Shabbos and you actually look at it inside, you read through it, it just becomes so much more tangible and relevant. And I really strongly suggest reviewing it on Shabbos. And obviously, if you're lucky enough to have a roommate that is also enjoying this year, I see some of you on the call that have roommates that are also enjoying this year. So doing it together and having a little chavrusa with each other, I think is a really beautiful thing. Okay. Also, I wanted to bring up, it's not necessarily related to this topic, but I think it is a very powerful Hayom Yom, and it happened this past Sunday. So I want to just read it because I think it gives a lot. The first stage in a person's spiritual decline, God forbid, is a lack of effort when serving Hashem in davening, in prayer. Everything becomes parched and cold. Even the routine performance of mitzvahs becomes burdensome. One hurries through their observance and loses a taste for Torah study. The very atmosphere becomes more materially oriented. And it goes without saying that a person in such a state cannot positively influence others at all. Okay, so this Hayom Yom is a life-changing Hayom Yom, just like all that Maamer I try and bring that are life-changing. You go back to Hayom Yom for this past Sunday, for the 23rd of ER, please review it, think about it, and if you ever feel yourself that you're feeling a bit in a rut, you're feeling like, doing mitzvahs is like a little cold or burdensome or whatnot, take a look at this Hayom Yom, and it says it clearly what to do about it and how to really work on it. So I want to bring that up and start with that because it's really powerful. Okay, so yesterday we left off with Eis Gimel. We finished Eis Beis. We finished the second chapter, and now we are about to begin the third chapter. So we gave, as I said, the Maamer is based on a pasuk. It starts with a pasuk. It starts with a concept. It goes into this life-changing, viewpoint-changing, middle stuff. And then by the end, we're going to close up again and say, okay, now let's analyze the pasuk from this new life perspective. Not only does that give us perspective for the pasuk, but it gives us real life perspective for ourselves. So the psukim is a comparison on two stories. The first story is Moshe Rabbeinu, that the Yidden were in the Midbar, in the desert, and they asked Moshe, we want to go spy the land before we enter it, because that was the conventional way of doing things then, and the Eibishter was not so happy about it, so he said, you know what, I don't care for this. If you don't trust me, you don't trust my abilities to help you through this, so I'm not a huge fan, but if you want to do it, go for yourself. Do it on your own accord. And in the end, they pushed Moshe, and Moshe said, okay, fine, go spy the land. So A, it was not commanded, and B, they ended up spying the entire lay of the land, which came back with a very negative outcome. They came back, they said, it's terrifying, they're going to eat us alive, and all these scary things, and everybody freaked out, and then it was not such a happy ending for those Jews. So that was one story. And then the other story is Yeshua, which by the time Yeshua was in charge, Moshe Rabbeinu had already passed, and Hashem commanded Yeshua, go spy on the city of Yericho. So it was commanded by Hashem, and this time it was one specific city, which was said to be, quote unquote, the key of the land. Once you get Yericho, the rest of the land is much easier to conquer. So Hashem said, go get this one specific, spy on this one specific city to be able to go and conquer it and then conquer the rest of the land. So we realized that we went into it and we said, okay, there's the fact is that the Torah is nitzchias, the Torah is true, and so therefore the lessons are meant to be lived, even if this particular mitzvah, happened a long time ago, or this particular story happened a long time ago. Everything in the Torah is forever and true, and it is eternal for us to live with, and so therefore, even such a story actually has relevance in our lives now. And so the Rebbe brought in, what's the relevance in our lives? And we went to discuss that. Why do we come into this world? We come into this world to be able to come and elevate and turn over our nefesh habahamis and our bodily needs and desires, etc., etc. So the purpose of coming in here is to conquer the land, right? So we're using this same story in Torah as a mashal for ourselves. We're meant to conquer the land, and we explained how do we conquer the land. There's a relationship in the word yerichai with our thought, speech, and action. We also very much in depth discussed what does it mean, thought, speech, and action, because again I say these are things that you just like toss in the mix and like they become jargon, Chassidic jargon, and we have to be very careful not to allow this to become Chassidic jargon, because it's real and practical and it's real messages. So thought means our process, the way we think, the way we analyze things, the way we view the world is very much based on how we are choosing to do that. So not necessarily is that the healthiest perspective sometimes, but just because we choose to see certain things in a certain way, we are the ones that paint the picture. And I think this was discussed a few weeks ago with Racheli Berry, where she spoke about the stories we tell ourselves and the types of history that we carry for our lives. It actually makes a very, very big difference how we choose to process this information, right? So thought is how we process that information, the stories we tell ourselves, the way we view. And again, I spoke about this last night at the Shidduchim course, that it's sometimes it's making assumptions. The assumptions we make about other people, the assumptions we make about things, that's our own perspective, and it's not necessarily the reality. So we have to be very careful about the assumptions that we make, because that is a sense of thought. Speech is our talk, the way we talk to others, but also very clearly the way we talk to ourselves. A lot of the times we would say nasty things to ourselves that we would never, ever, ever say to someone else, especially not to their face. We push ourselves down. We say that we're something that we are not, and it's a negative, not good thing. So again, we have to be very careful about our speech. And actions are, sometimes we, as I spoke about this yesterday, you can put whatever you want on a shidduch profile, or you can tell your friends all these things, but what do you actually set time to do? What do you actually get done in your day? That determines what are your real values in life. If you think that hiking is a wonderful thing, but you never set time to do it, then maybe that's not such a real value in your life, and you need to figure out how your actions really play out. So we spoke about the fact that for a tzaddik, a tzaddik has full control over their emotions, and then the Rebbe explained that the emotions are the full lay of the land, right? So the land, the fact that Moshe sent I guess you could say Moshe sent spies to survey the land, to spy on the land. The land meant the full extent of the emotions, as opposed to Yeshua, who sent spies just to the city of Yericho, and that city represents your thoughts, your speech, and your actions. Okay, so it's very, very big difference between one and the other. And the reason why the Eibishter said it didn't command Moshe to send spies to the entire lay of the land is because the concept of fixing our emotions through our emotions themselves is a level for tzaddikim. That is something that tzaddikim can accomplish. And I gave the example that sometimes we get ourselves in a rut and we're feeling down and we're feeling, negative. We're having a personal struggle that we're going through. And sometimes we say, stop it, get out of this negative mood, get out of this, rut, get out of it. And we're kind of like beating ourselves for the emotions that we're having, whereas that type of avodah is not really meant, well, just wait, because we're about to discuss it. But according to the point we're up to in the Maamer, is not really meant for us at this point. A tzaddik is the one that can, change his emotions. But meanwhile, a beinani, and that's all of us, because we're all on the level to achieve the level of beinani. So a beinani is able to change their thoughts, their speech, and their action. And through changing those, just like the city of Yericho is the key to get into the rest of the land, so too for us in our inner workings, by changing our thoughts, by changing our speech, and by actually doing actions that are positive for us, those things are the key to change our emotions. So the example I gave yesterday, if somebody's feeling in a rut, instead of going and analyzing and getting all fighting against the emotion that you're feeling, go pick up a book. I'm a huge fan of positivity bias. Read some positivity bias to get new healthy thoughts into your mind. Go, call a friend, speak to somebody that can help you have positive speech about yourself. Don't self-berate. Don't come and let the Yetzer Hara use your words to destroy you. And your actions, get up and do something else. Change your attitude, change your environment. Go dance, go move, go get out of that action pattern, get into a new action pattern, and that will kick off a change in your emotions. So that's where we left off in yesterday's section for the Maamer. And now let's go into page 28 on the Chassidic Heritage Series. And now we're actually going to get a whole new beautiful perspective. Okay, page 28, Ois Gimel, chapter 3. Tzadikim and Beinanim. The Torah is eternal and applicable to everyone. It follows then that the fact that the Torah also tells of the sending of Moshe's spies to scout out the entire land is an eternal lesson to every Jew, even one who is not on the level of Moshe. So whoa, 1 second. We finished off the last day saying, working on your emotions is the level of tzaddikim. And that's why Hashem said, only Moshe, send for yourself. Moshe, you're a tzaddik, someone on the level of your righteousness. Someone should be the one who, you can choose to send that, because those are the only people who can truly work on their full extent of their emotions. But meanwhile, now we're saying, 1 second, Torah is applicable to everyone. And the fact is that it says the story about Moshe, which means even us who are on the level to reach Beinanim, even us, we can learn something from this concept, okay? We can understand this by introducing a concept discussed in the Tanya regarding Tzadikim and Beinanim. The divine service of the Beinanim involves primarily the garments of the soul, which are thought, speech, and deed. Thus, the rank of Beinani is the rank attainable by every man. For even when a person's heart craves and desires some material pleasure, he is capable of restraining himself and controlling the drive of his heart's lust by not allowing it to find expression in deed, speech, or thought. In other words, not to willingly think about his desire to the extent of being able to divert his mind from it entirely. So 1 second. For anyone who's taken my Tanya share, so this is going to be a slight review, but let's take a moment and rediscuss the difference between a Beinani and a Tzaddik, right? So a Beinani, okay, start with a Tzaddik. A Tzaddik is somebody who has two, there are two types of Tzaddikim for starters, but has the Yetzer Hara, so to speak, and the Yetzer Tov, right? So the battle between, and this is chapter 9 in Tanya, the battle between the two forces, the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov, or Nefesh Elokis and Nefesh Bahamis, whatever, we're going to discuss that, the real differences later. But anyway, so the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov, it has both forces. That said, a tzaddik, one type of tzaddik, has taken full control. The Yetzer Tov has taken full control over every single aspect of the battle, and so therefore the Yetzer Hara does not even speak up, does not make a peep. It has been completely demolished and finished off, and the war has been won. The real true king over the body and over thought, speech, and action, and over the emotions is the Yetzer Tov, is the connection, the real, true, deep connection to Hashem. Another type of tzaddik is somebody who has a Yetzer Hara and a Yetzer Tov, so to speak, but they have not just taken over and won the battle, they have fully overturned the forces of the Yetzer Hara also for the Yetzer Tov. So what did? They lahavdil, but they converted the Yetzer Hara into a Yetzer Tov. They converted it for the good. Now they have two Yetzer Tovs because of this process, right? So that's a tzaddik. Now, a Beinani, on the other hand, has the Yetzer Hara, has the Yetzer Tov. They are not strong. They're not at the level. They were not given this bracha from Hashem to be able to fully convert the Yetzer Hara. So that Yetzer Hara is always there. That said, the Yetzer Hara never wins the battle. It never wins the battle, right? So in action, the way it shows up is that it's the same. It's the same action. You could look at a tzaddik, you could look at a full force Beinani, and their actions and their attitudes look the same. But a Beinani who's, again, this is the level of Beinani. This is a different situation. But a Beinani is at a point where he never lets that battle come up and bubble up and, rise. So what can we learn from this? For starters, is that at every point in time, we have that ability. We have the ability to be able to make the right choice. And through making that right choice, we are able to reach the level of Beinani at that point in time. It's possible it may not last for the rest of our lives. Mitzvah Hashem, it will. And that's the purpose. We're learning Chassidus, and we're gonna connect to this part, and we're gonna Mitzvah Hashem all come out Beinani by the end of this Shiur. But at the same time, we may not win all the battles. But the fact is that we have the capability, and a good story, thanks to Rabbi Shei's Taub, that one time he was sitting in a car. I guess his wife went inside to buy groceries, and suddenly a woman comes out. She's dragging her toddler, and she is very clearly upset about whatever the toddler did. She you could see she's upset, but she calmly puts her toddler in this car seat, gets into her car, closes the door, and turns around and gives the toddler a huge, scream. And the question goes and says, 1 second, when did she begin to be upset? When did this level of being upset at her toddler start? At the point when she was inside the store, whatever store she was inside, probably the toddler touched something, broke something, did something he wasn't meant to be doing, which toddlers do sometimes. But she was able to control her reaction to it all the way till she reached the car. And the funniest part of the story is that after giving a nice big shout, she realized that Shei's Taub is sitting, window to window, right next to her and watching the whole thing. And she very quickly was able to control herself and compose herself and stop again. So we have full control over our reactions, our not necessarily emotions. She was angry. She was definitely angry, but how that came out in her thought, her speech, and her action, she has full control over that, and so do we. It's a natural thing we're born with. We might get upset. We might have things that bother us, but how do we react? How do they come out in our thoughts, our speech, and our action? We have full control. So a Beinani, and I'm talking to all of us because we all have this ability to become a Beinani. A Beinani has this ability to have full control over what comes out of their thought, their speech, and their action, right? Same thing as sneezing on someone's face. You have this it's about to come. But you have self-control enough to either turn around or just hold it in and not sneeze in someone's face, right? So we have full control. And the same way as we have full control over our body and our sneezing and all of these different things, we also have full control over our thoughts. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. We're making a difference between a tzaddik and a Beinani, but I want to make it very relevant that each and every person listening to this right now, you can and you will be able to have this level of control in your lives so that you can live this life of a Beinani. Okay, so that was the Beinani. Now, back to the book, page 28 on the bottom. The service of tzaddikim, on the other hand, primarily involves the emotions of the heart, which are love and fear of Hashem. And not every person merits this level of service. For man does not have that much jurisdiction over matters governed by the heart. Nevertheless, an oath is administered to every Jew, exhorting him to be a tzaddik, meaning that every person must to some extent attempt to involve himself in the mode of service of tzaddikim, as explained at length in Tanya. Okay? So now that we said, yes, a Beinoni has full control over thought, speech, and action, and tzaddikim they're able to, at that point in time, chas v'shalom, but let's say a tzaddik is with a toddler in the store, and suddenly the toddler does something not good. A tzaddik has the ability to not even get upset. And this is the beauty in this. We should work to also achieve that. It is a work to be done. But again, our process to doing that is through the key, through yericha, through our thoughts, through our speech, and through our action. But a tzaddik has the ability to not even get upset to begin with, right? Because a tzaddik has that control over their emotions, as opposed to us, which not necessarily that's our deepest, domain. Our strongest domain is our thought, our speech, and our actions. Okay, so what do we learn from this ice? That the story about Moshe Rabbeinu is being shared because we also, even though it's not necessarily what I would say the lesson for every single person, because this concept of surveying the full land, having full control over all of your emotions, is a level of Moshe Rabbeinu. It's a level of a tzaddik. But the fact is, it's in the Torah. And because it's in the Torah, the Rebbe tells us there is what to be learned for us as well. And which means we need to attempt, through fixing our thought, our speech, and our action, working on those, we can actually reach a level where we're able to take and have control over our emotions and really, work on them and elevate them and tame them and make good use of them, so to speak. Okay? So I want to so I want to just reiterate that the fact is that becoming a Beinoni, and I know this is a big misconception in the way people learn sometimes. It's like they quote a particular section in Tanya, and it says, "Oh, halavai Beinoni," and you have to read that section in context, because being a Beinoni is not a halavai Beinoni. It's like chucking the entire Sefer Shel Beinoni, which the Rebbe wrote, the Alter Rebbe wrote, and it's meant for every single one of us. And we have this ability that it is attainable. It is attainable through working on that key, through really, being very aware. And again, take Shabbos. Shabbos is coming up. Now is a good time, if you have the Maamer, to review it, and also to really think, what are my thought processes? How do I speak to myself when I'm disappointed? How do I judge others when I see things that are not so positive? And it's a very interesting thing to do, and it's a very interesting thing to. And again, it's not about beating yourself up. This is not a process of like, let's get down on ourselves. It's a process of being sensitive to what are our thoughts. What type of speech do I am I a sensitive person that I'm very careful about how I say things to people, not to hurt their feelings? Am I a sensitive person that I'm very careful how I say things to myself, to not hurt my own feelings? It's not right. It's not right to speak to ourselves. And also, I recently had a question. Somebody that's doing our program asked this question, and they said, how do I handle when in the process of trying to achieve my goals, how do I handle when I get these negative thoughts that tell me I should be doing better? It's not good enough. I haven't reached high enough. I'm not Chassidish enough. I'm not connected enough. I'm not doing this enough. So I quoted several places in Chassidus. One of them is in Tanya, Perek Chav Zayin and Chav Vav, actually both, where when you see that a thought is a negative thought is coming to destroy you, you can take this lesson and you can use this tool and realize that you're doing such an amazing job that you're making the Yetzer Hara nervous. Okay, so imagine a battle, two people are battling, and one is starting to win, one is winning over the other. So this one, what does he have to do? He has to work extra hard. He has to really put that effort to get back the control, right? So you're doing such an incredible job at this point, and you're really rocking it out, so to speak. that the Yetzer Hara is getting nervous and it's going to need to fight harder. And so that's why the Yetzer Hara comes and beats you even harder and tries to put you down in a time when really you're doing such a beautiful and wonderful thing. So the fact that you're having negative thoughts, whether it's in davening or whether it's at any point in time, is actually a sign that whatever you're doing great. So don't let those negative thoughts get you down, and realize that as working towards being a Beinani, it's a beautiful sign, because again, you will, okay? It's a beautiful sign because you will be able to bring up this and elevate and see the proper perspective on how to handle these things. Not only that, but the Rebbe actually writes about it, how do you know if the thought is coming from the Yetzer Hara or the Yetzer Tov? The end result at which it brings you down to, or brings you to, right? So if this thought is leading you to be happy, and I'm talking about real simcha. I'm not talking about like, oh, I want more chocolate cake happy. I want, real happy. Like at the end of the day, you put your head on your pillow and you say, wow, I'm so proud of that. So that type of happiness, if that's what it's leading you to, then that's a beautiful thing. But if it's in any way, shape, or form leading you to negativity, to putting you down, to negative self-talk, it's not coming from a good place. It's not a good thought. It's not a good speech. And whatever it leads you to, it probably will not be a good action. So therefore, let's take control over our thoughts, our speech, and our action. And let's think about it. Let's be aware of it over Shabbos. Anyway, I hope everybody had a wonderful time, and hope you have a good, amazing Shabbos. Can't wait to see you on Sunday in Mitzvah Hashem.